Okay, if everyone will take their seats, we'll be ready to begin.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the New York School of Interior Design. My name is Freya Van Son, and I am the Director for Online and Blended Learning, as well as a design historian. Here at the New York School of Interior Design, we are lucky enough to be located in one of the great design centers, and our students certainly are enriched by the culture in New York. But we're also deeply committed to giving students the opportunity to learn from cultures outside of the United States as well as other parts of the country. And to this end, we've established a study abroad in Florence, as well as numerous shorter, more intensive study abroads that happen throughout the year. Earlier this year, actually at the new year, a group of students had the opportunity to travel to India, and I was lucky enough to be able to join them. Through this 2-week study, we had exposure to so much. I mean, I couldn't summarize it in one sentence, but one of the great artisanal experiences was the textiles. And in our trip to Ahmedabad, we visited the Calico Museum of Textiles, where we had the great fortune to run into a group being led by Judy Frater. That group was just filled with joy, I must say. They were some of the happiest people I've ever run into. They'd had an experience of actually working with artisans and learning some of the artisanal crafts themselves, which we were all quite jealous about. And it's through this serendipitous meeting that Judy is here tonight. She is an extraordinarily accomplished person. The list goes on here, but just a few of the outstanding accomplishments are her decades of work with the artisans of Khatri, and through this, the founding of the Kala Raksha Trust and Museum, as well as the first design school for artisans. She's been honored with numerous awards, including the Sir Misha Black Medal for Design Education, the Crafts Council of India Kamala Award, and the Designers of India Design Guru Award. Tonight, we are honored to have her here to discuss her most recent publications, Artisans by Design and Odyssey of Education for Textile Artisans in India. So without further ado, please welcome Ashoka Fellow, Judy Frater.
Thank you, Freya. I'm thrilled to be here to launch my book, Artisans by Design, and I'm especially happy because Adil and Pachan are here with me, and they were very much a part of the journey. They're two graduates of the design program, and Adil also graduated from our Business and Management for Artisans program. The story is a long story, and it really is a co-creation story. So I decided to tell it through vignettes of some of the artisans who were part of the journey. I want to thank, I need to thank many, many people, and I've tried to do so in the book. But right here, I would like to thank Schiffer for making such a beautiful book, and my dear friend Nevada Weir, who photographed for this book and really contributed to its beautiful presentation. I want to thank all of the artisans who participated. I could not cover all of them in the book, but each one of them was important in helping me to understand how individuals can share a tradition, but each one can have their own unique interpretation, like fingerprints or handwriting. And I think each one taught me that everyone is creative if encouraged, and it contributes to the richness of cultural heritage. I want to thank the New York School of Interior Design for making this event possible, and I'm really happy that not only do we have a talk here and a trunk show, but we have an exhibition. Each of the artisans in the book made a piece specifically for the book to show their design capability, and a selection of those textiles are on view in the little gallery. And I need to thank my dear friend Amina for all of her hard work in installing that show and making it really beautiful and giving respect to the textiles, because that's really what this is all about, respecting traditional artisans and their work. So this is a story situated in a small corner of India, but I think it has broader themes, and I hope that if you have the chance to read the book, you will feel these themes. I structured the book in vignettes of artisans intertwined with my own story to try to give you a sense of experiencing it, sort of, as I did. Okay, so some of the themes that I think are much broader are the transformative power of education. There's nothing more thrilling, actually, than participating in that. And I think everyone loves to learn if the method and the content are appropriate. That's the key. I think respect, again, that's really the bottom line. Mutual respect builds a bond so that we all work together toward a common goal. And sustainability. I hope we all think about sustainability a lot these days. And I think the root cause of our issues with sustainability, environmental sustainability particularly, are that we produce and consume too much. And I think craft has the capacity to show us a different way, because a craft product, it's not a product, it's a connection. When I wear this, I think of Adil because he made it, and this made by Pachan. And I want to tell you a little story. Today, Pachan did a co-design project, long-distance co-design project with a student at the University of Wisconsin in 2017. And they have remained in touch ever since. And she called him today, and we realized she was in New York City, and she came and met him. And this is way more than buying a product which you probably will throw away within a short time. Okay. I'm going to go through sort of the basic, a glimpse of what happened over those 50 years. And then I want to give time to Adil Bhai and Pachan Bhai to talk about their experiences, because there's one more thing. Every event, every activity has as many perspectives as there are people participating in it. I don't know if some of you know the story Rashomon. Yeah. So obviously, I am telling all of the stories in this book from my own perspective, but each of the people whose vignette I've written has their own version. So I think it's really a great opportunity for us to hear Adil Bhai and Pachan Bhai tell some of their experiences of being traditional artisans and learning design. Okay. So my story starts in New Hope, Pennsylvania, a small town which some of you may know on the Delaware River, well known, especially at the time I was growing up, as being an artist colony. And it was my life to be able to go into town and visit artisans, see them working and buy from them and have that personal connection. So that really set my foundation of my worldview about craft. And when I was in college, I had the opportunity to go to India, and I headed straight for Kutch, which you can see in this map. There's a situation of India in the world, and within India, Gujarat state, and within Gujarat state, Kutch district, which is a very dry, drought-prone district, kind of a cultural island because it's surrounded by the Gulf of Kutch on two sides and the uninhabitable salt marsh run of Kutch on the other two. And one of the first people I was fortunate to meet when I went to Kutch was Ali Muhammad Isha, who was a master Bandhani artist. And I would like to just read you an excerpt from the chapter on Ali Muhammad Isha that will give a sort of setting of where craft was at the time. Okay. In the 1950s, India began nation building. Leaders focused on rapid industrialization, inflation coupled with an influx of cheaper industrially produced products, and villagers, the traditional consumers of handcraft, began to prefer plastic, synthetics, and mill-made fabrics. Artisans were forced to seek alternative clients, and they looked to more distant, unknown markets. At the same time, the industrial concept of design as an entity was introduced to India. Designers sought inspiration from artisans, and artisans found aid in their quest for remote markets in designers as well as traders. The commercialization of craft used an industrial model in which the assumed goals are to manufacture faster, cheaper, and in a more standardized way. By the 1970s, shops in Bhuj, the capital of Kutch, were filled with inexpensive Bandhani saris for the urban mass market. But in the crowded Khatri Chakla neighborhood of Bhuj, Bandhani artist Ali Muhammad Isha Khatri lived in a special world with a large old neem tree right in the middle of his tiny home. Ali Muhammad Bhai, and we add Bhai as respect, had no interest in commercial Bandhani. I make one piece at a time, he said, and each one is a masterpiece. My philosophy is that whatever I make should have something of me in it, myself. Otherwise, I won't like it. A designer maker, an artisan designer, was alive and well in post-industrial Kutch. So meeting artisans like Ali Muhammad Bhai started to teach me the world and the heart and soul of a craftsperson in Kutch. I also had the opportunity to spend time with Rabaris who do embroidery, and I was intrigued by the stark contrast between women in severe black making these wild, colorful embroideries, and people like Harkuben, who is on the right at the bottom, taught me through, not didactically, but through experience, that embroideries are part of identity, they're part of cultural heritage, and each person's work is unique. She would look through a pile of embroideries and say, this is Bachi Ben, this is Lachu Ben, this is Rami Ben. Just like I told you with this bandhani, seeing the person in their work, like handwriting. And so that was the beginning of understanding that culture communicates, art communicates. Later, I had the opportunity to study the embroidery of Maro Megwals and Soda Rajputs, who make Suf embroidery. I wanted to see if my theory that I had developed working with Rabari embroidery could apply elsewhere. So I had a Fulbright grant, and I was working with Suf embroiderers. And while I was there with my pen and paper, one of the Suf embroiderers jumped off the page, Dayaben, she's the one in the parrot green in the upper right. She said, "Why are you studying us? Why don't you help us?" And it was like, oh. And I think in that one sentence, that one question, she made me see her perspective. And I thought, okay, I get it. You know, I'm trying to preserve cultural heritage, but at the same time, it's an important source of livelihood for those people who make it. So then she, Dayaben, and her brother Prakash Bhai, who's on the far right of that same photograph, and I started Kalaraksha as a way to try to enable, there was already commercial embroidery happening, but we wanted to enable artisans to still do their traditional work and earn money rather than having to do something someone else gives them that has very little cultural relevance. And I started a museum. By that time, I was a curator at the Textile Museum, and that's what I knew how to do. So I started a museum at Kalaraksha. And on the left, we have in the yellow, Hariaben. She was one of our original trustees, and she and I were putting together the interpretation center with we had large stuffed dolls, and they were to wear traditional costumes. We had the embroidered tops, but we didn't have the bottom. So Hariaben said, "What shall we put for the bottom?" And I said, "Traditional." And she said, "Which tradition?" And that, again, that simple phrase made me realize that she saw tradition as a continuous evolution, as ongoing, as not a fixed sort of thing. So Kalaraksha was on a great success trajectory until 2001, when there was a massive earthquake in Khatri. And at that time, we decided to work with, we had about 1,000 artisans in Kalaraksha by then, and we decided to work with them, giving matching grants from the funds that we were collecting for rehabilitation. And I learned from them, of course, when you pay more, women do more work, right? They did better work. And I was really quite amazed by that. And they said, "You're paying us well, we're going to do good work." That was an important learning for me also. And also, a few good things came out of the earthquake. There was a lot of devastation, but as often is the case, some good things also came out. So one was that I was asked to do narrative work. I was asked to have the artisans in our community make narrative work. And at first I said, they don't do that. You know, I don't want to interfere with their cultural heritage. But then another person asked me, I said, oh, okay. And I asked Rani Ben, who had lost her home in the earthquake, to make a piece that expressed her experience of the earthquake. Rani Ben makes patchwork quilts with squares, triangles, and rectangles. And this is the piece she made. It's huge, it's wall to ceiling, and it was so powerful that I learned, don't second guess, don't limit people, give them opportunities and see what they can do. And also, at the time of the earthquake, by then I had already been thinking, you know, we worked with designers, but it was often not very satisfying for anybody. And I was thinking, you know, they should have a design school for artisans. And it took the earthquake and someone asking me what I wanted to see come out of the earthquake for me to realize that if I really thought that, I had to put in the work. So I got an Ashoka Fellowship and plunged ahead. We built a beautiful campus in a small Rabari camel herding village on the Gulf of Kutch in Opaniwand, which is also known as Tundawand. And I put together a curriculum. But here, I wanted to make sure that I didn't tread on the culture that I was respecting. So I started asking people, what do you want to learn? And this is a group of Kalaraksha artisans. And I asked them, do you want to learn? They said, yes. I said, what? And one woman piped up, don't teach us embroidery. That's what we do. Teach us something useful. So I thought, okay, we're getting on the track. And then Haryaben, the same Haryaben, who you can see, I don't have a pointer, but she's like this. She says, well, we might not know so many designs, but if we learn to make more, maybe we wouldn't have to depend on people. So I said, yeah, I think they get it. So the program that I put together was for working traditional artisans of Kutch, and that meant that they couldn't really be away from their work and their families for more than 2 weeks at a time. So I structured the program as modular, as 6 2-week intensive programs, very intensive, where the faculty and the students live together and work until we tell them, please go to sleep. And I made it as practical as possible, as little lecturing, as little writing as possible, but apply what you learn directly into your work. Because really one of my key goals was to strengthen cultural heritage and craft traditions, I wanted to make sure that artisans were aware of them. By this time, in the early 2000s, young artisans didn't have as much understanding of their tradition as their elders had. So I put together a board of advisors, of master artisans who would come every year. This is Ali Mohammed Bai, who we met a little bit earlier, talking to students about their traditions. And I think we were successful in really enabling people to love their traditions. The other source of inspiration, of course, was nature, because there's nothing better than nature as far as inspiration goes. Another goal of the program is to connect artisans with contemporary markets, because traditionally they had clients who shared the same understanding of craft and the same basis of evaluation, which meant that craft was very satisfying for the maker and the user. But that's no longer the case. So how to bring the artisans and their clients closer. So we have one module, market orientation, where students go to Ahmedabad, the big city, go to shops, and also go to homes to see not only what's being sold, but who's buying it and how do they live. Yeah, and the other thing to help people see craft as contemporary and fashionable was that in our annual convocation, we have a fashion show. And it's wildly popular, particularly for people from artisan communities, but it draws people from elsewhere as well. And they get to see their fellow community members walking the fashion show ramp and looking fashionable, and everybody cheering. It's great fun. Okay. By 2000, I started the school in 2005, and by 2014 it really had reached its limits within that, being part of Kalaraksha, being part of a village organization. Plus, it was very hard to financially sustain it, so I joined forces with the KJ Somaya Trust in Mumbai, and we reinvented the program as Somaya Kalavidya, and that it still operates today as as Somaya Kalavidya, and it's actually expanded wonderfully. They've built a new campus and even a campus in Karnataka, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so I wanted to ensure that the real resource of the program up till then, that was 8 years already, which is the alumni, was intact. And so the first course that I started at Somaya Kalavidya was a graduate course in business and management for artisans, the BMA. Adil was a member of that first class, and it really was a graduate course. It was more intimate and also much more difficult, and part of it was the students had to design and implement their own pop-up exhibition sale in an urban metro, and from that I really understood the importance of ownership. Up till then, I think the students didn't really own their work, but when they had invested in the venue and all the expenses of putting up a sale, then they really owned their work. And I also learned in the beginning of Somaya Kalavidya that asking for help can actually help to build bonds. In our new setting, in the beginning, we didn't have a campus, we didn't have a place for our beloved fashion show, and it was important. So I asked the people of Bujodi, where Pachan lives, if they would host the show, and they were happy to. And we really bonded over that, and you know, we got to work together in a different way beyond being in the classroom. We had so much success, I felt that it needed to go beyond this little corner of India, so I started outreach programs, and in those programs, graduates of our program go to areas, regions where artisans have less exposure, and they quickly teach artisans the value of design and the value of gaining agency and reaching new markets. And here's Pachan in Kumaon, in the hills in North India, I guess, teaching design to women weavers. And again, people love to learn when the material and the method are appropriate. I also started workshops and open studio tours to connect, to sort of take advantage of the tourism that is in Kutch, which doesn't always reach all of the artisans. So this was a way to bring visitors into the village and meet lots of artisans, realize there's not just one weaver and one bonding artist, there's lots of them. And I think it's important that in these programs, the community members work together to manage, so they learn some practical management as well. Then we started co-design, long distance, using WhatsApp with the University of Wisconsin, and that's where Pachan met Kate, who came in today. And this is Tulsi Ben, who loves to do WhatsApp co-design. And I think it's also a way, it's a way to continue using what you've learned, because I think all of us know that after you graduate from an education program where you have wonderful, sort of a safe and nurturing environment, and then you go out in the world, you can just get sucked up into doing what you have to do and not using all of your creativity. But it also was a way to encourage young designers to understand the capacity of artisans and respect that and work with them more on an equal level. Then I started seminars and to talk about some of the issues that artisan designers face today. And this is the first seminar we had, and the jury members are asking,
Coping the copying.
huh?
Coping the copying, right?
This is who wants your children to be artisans?
Yeah.
So we have a lot of raised hands. Coping with copying was another one, yeah. So these are a few, I'll just touch on a few of the challenges that artisan designers face today, and I'll give you some glimpses of some of the artisans that are in the book. This is Bharat Bhai. The challenge that he sort of personifies is how to start. Okay, he's what is considered an older artisan. He was 36 when he took the course, and you know, he's definitely knows his craft and knows design, but how does he break into that competitive market? Very competitive market. And he has learned to use social media. He's in a village even farther out than Pachan Bhai's village. He's learned to use social media and get a following. That's part of it. Soya Bhai, scale. Scale is a big one because, as I read out of this passage, from an early time, craft in India has been perceived as a sort of inferior form of manufacturing. So there's a great pressure to produce, to make in quantity, to keep it standard, to keep it cheap. And everyone can't always do production, and even if they do, they like to do creative work too. So how do they manage that push for production and their urge to be creative and have unique work in the market? Dayabai, here's an issue I think that people don't see coming. Success management. Dayabai was our faculty person for 8 years. He became very successful. He was juried into the folk art market in Santa Fe in 2014, and then year after that. And he's been able to build his business, but he lives still in a community, very tight-knit community, where there is a lot of pressure for status quo. So how do you manage that? For women, there are additional challenges. This is Sajanuben Rabari. She is in the middle. She is not literate, and she really wants to have her own business. She took the business and management course without being literate. And but still, there she is in her little village with very little connectivity. How does she even begin? It's not even just growing her business. How does she begin? She has a son who's very supportive and a daughter-in-law who's educated, and they help her with social media and with going out. It's very hard for women in traditional societies to leave their villages and go to urban centers, so she really has a lot of support from her family. Now, here's Adil Bhai and his wife Zakia Ben. They were both students at the same time, and in the BMA, the Business and Management course as well. You know, I again really wanted this course to help carry tradition forward, not to make something so contemporary that it no longer has its character, which can be really a strength, I think. So we show students examples of their traditions, and Adil Bhai and Zakia Ben have started to collect them, and they have their own like family museum, and they use these traditional pieces, exquisite pieces, as inspiration for making new work. And here are two pieces that Adil Bhai has in the exhibition out here, and one that Zakia Ben has in the exhibition. And you could see that they're using the same techniques and drawing from the same tradition, but both having their unique interpretations. The goal is to say, that's Adil Bhai's work, and that's Zakia Ben's work. An example with Pachan Bhai. The weaving tradition in Kutch uses an extra weft technique for ornamentation, usually geometric patterns. They all have meaning, but they're very abstract. Pachan Bhai took that technique to a completely different level with almost like drawing or painting. He inserts the extra weft to create narrative motifs and tell stories. And this is his piece that's hanging outside that tells the story of a wedding. Okay, how to find the right niche. This is a challenge. And here's Akib Bhai, who does fabulous Islamic geometric compositions, very perfected, very beautiful. So how does he find the right niche for that work, what he really wants to do? There are higher level niches in India, but they're usually monopolized by well-known designers in the fashion world. And you can see this is also Akib's sari, but it's kind of overwhelmed by the stylist's blouse that she created for the fashion show, Lakme fashion show. So how does an artisan designer who really wants to make unique work find the appropriate market niche? So I think reinventing, what I've been trying to do is reinvent traditions, and reinventing client-artisan relations is now, I think, a key issue to work on, and to reestablish that shared understanding and criteria for evaluation. And I think meeting face-to-face really helps to make that personal connection to, it's a beginning of sharing understanding. Here we are in 2022, and we're discussing where we've come from and where we're going. And during this time, not this meeting, but during this time, Mukhtar Bhai, who is a Bandhani artist who has been the faculty at Somaya Kalavidya for a number of years, he showed me a beautiful piece that he had made, for which he won a national award for craftsmanship, which is very high honor. And it was exquisite, fine Bandhani, natural dyed, an abo, tunic. So I said, you're going to, I try not to use the word produce, you're going to create more, right? He said, no. And I was shocked. I said, why? Why not? He said, it's not worth it. So that really, that phrase really kind of says it all, really. How do we make craft traditions worth it? Because all of the traditional artisans that have taken this course can make exquisite work. They can do wonderful designs, but will they do it only if they feel it's going to be appreciated? So how do we can play a part in that. How do we make craft worth it? Okay, and this is my last slide. Shakil Bhai is a batik artist, and he has huge production orders to manage, just constant production. But he loves to create. He's an artist, and he has a special table that nobody else uses. He keeps it for when he has to create. He just has to create, and he sits, and this is the piece that he made that's in the exhibition, and he made it in a day, and with 25 years of experience, right? And I think having the joy of creation really is essential to sustaining a craft tradition. And finally, here's Ismail Bhai. He's a master Ajrak artisan from the village Ajrakpur, and he's one of our advisors. And he has now graduated to research and development because his sons are taking care of production. And he's making exquisite replicas of traditional pieces. And I asked Ismail Bhai, what do we do to maintain this quality? And he said, you have to make it with love. And I think it's love of creation and love of using. Thank you. So now I would like to invite Adil Bhai and Pachan Bhai to talk about their experiences as students and artisan designers. We'll start with Adil Bhai.
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Adil Khatri, and I am from Bhuj city, which is located in Gujarat. Things started in 2011. I just completed my 12th standard, and I was very confused because I was very bad with my studies and all these things. And yeah, there was a reason particularly because the Indian education system was very different, where you just memorize a thing and give exams and like that. There was no practical implementation. That was the main problem with me. So because the bandhani I saw my uncle, my mother keep doing since like my childhood, then I realized in 2011 that yeah, this is something that I can carry it on, because it's nothing that you have to memorize or you know. So I thought, okay, that's the practical implementation, that's what I love, let's do it bandhani. So after practicing like almost 2 or 3 years of bandhani, again it's the time when I realized that okay, it's not working. I'm making bandhani which is like every 100 other artisans are making, and it's like lost with thousands of people where you have no recognition. And then I realized, okay, you have to stand out, like, but how? At the same time, I got to know about the design course, and I met Miss Judy Frater. So we gone through like 6 modules of during this design course, and we usually come up with a new collection every year. And this is how like it changed my life, like coming from the city which is not on the map, you can say, all the way to New York. The main learning I remember in terms of color particularly, which I even apply that learning that you even said, that don't use dyes directly from the dabba. Dabba means the boxes. You mix and match things. You mix black, you mix gray, and create your own new colors. And each of the module we learn something different. And I think this is why I'm here. I mean, how would I say this? Like this design education, this information, that little details and knowledge of not just tradition, which already we knew, right? That changed my life. Yeah.
And you have applied for and received a lot of awards, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but would you have done that before having this design education?
And no. So after the 2014, so I made a special piece for state level competition, and in 2022, in 2015, just after 2 years, I got a Gujarat State Award at the first prize, and I was 22 at the same time. Yeah. And next, then journey continues. I got a World Craft Council Seal of Excellence Award, then Kamala Award, and many more.
Yeah. But it helps you to get known, right? Because you're also trying to break into a very big field.
But because I feel that I continued, remember you said that you came up with the co-design idea to continue that knowledge that you have learned and you apply it. And the reason that I like continue maintain that knowledge, I mean, sorry, I'm not able to say this, like the whatever we have learned and you keep apply
Yeah.
every year. You
Yeah, yeah. You don't make one collection and that's it.
that's it. No, no.
Yeah. Adil Bhai has been a great ambassador for our school, I think. So, Pachan Bhai will speak in Gujarati and I will translate. Tamaro anubhav batao.
જ્યારે ડિઝાઇન ક્લાસ ચાલુ થયો ત્યારે મારા મગજમાં એ ન હતું કે ડિઝાઇન ક્લાસ મને કરવો છે. મને એમ હતું કે 1-2 ક્લાસ કરીને મૂકી દેવો છે, કેમ કે મારી લડત છે ને મારા સાથે જ હતી. કેમ કે મને ઘણા બધા પ્રશ્ન એવી રીતના હતા કે મને લખતા વાંચતા ના આવડતું હતું. એટલે મને એમ થયું કે કોઈ મને ઇંગ્લિશમાં પૂછશે તો હું શું જવાબ આપીશ, મને આવડતી જ નથી. પછી ત્યાં કાંઈ સબ્જેક્ટ ચાલુ થશે અને કાંઈ પૂછશે તો મને ખબર નથી તો શું જવાબ આપીશ. પછી ઘરવાળાનું ફોર્સના કારણે મેં કીધું ક્લાસ કરીએ, મજા ના આવે મૂકી દેશું.
Okay, 1 minute, huh? So he actually didn't want to take the course. He thought his family was really pressuring him because his brother had taken the course. And so he said, I'll go, I'll take a course or two and that'll be it. And because he's not educated, he doesn't read and write. And he thought if they ask me questions, especially in English, and I won't know what to say, so I don't think this is for me.
જ્યારે કલર ક્લાસ થયું ત્યારે બહુ મજા આવી. પછી મને એમ થયું કે ના ના કરવા જેવું છે તો આપણે બેઝિક ડિઝાઇન પણ કરશું. જ્યારે બેઝિક ડિઝાઇન સ્ટાર્ટઅપ થયો ને ત્યારે ટીચર આવ્યા હતા. એ લોકો કીધું કે જાઓ તમે બહાર નેચરમાંથી કંઈક વસ્તુ લઈ આવો અને તમે ડ્રોઈંગ કરો. તો બધે કાંઈક લઈ આવતા હતા. કોઈક પાંદડો લઈ આવતો હતો, કોઈક બીજું કંઈ લઈ આવતો હતો. તો મારા હાથમાં પથ્થર લઈ આવ્યો તો મને ટીચરે કીધું કે તમે ડ્રોઈંગ કરો. તો પછી મેં ટીચરને જોઈને મનમાં હું હસ્યો, આ કેવી રીતના મને કહે છે કે પથ્થરની ડ્રોઈંગ કરો, એટલે મને મજાક લાગ્યો. એટલે પછી મેં એમને જઈને પૂછા કરી કે આ મારું કામ નથી, મારું કામ છે દોરાથી કાપડ બનાવવાનું. મારાથી આ કામ નહીં થાય.
Okay, so he took the color course. That was fun. I did that intentionally because everyone loves color, right? That gets people involved. But it's also basic. Color is like, really, when you look at things, one of the first things you see is color, right? So then he took the basic design course, and the teacher said, go get something from nature, and they each found something. He brought back a stone, and she said, okay, draw it. And he said, what am I going to draw with this stone? And he said, this is not my work. My work is making fabric from yarn. So this is not my work. Pati?
પછી મને થયું કે આ મારું કામ છે જ નહીં, આ તો બધું પોતાનો ટાઈમ સ્પેન્ડ કરવા આવ્યા છે, એટલે મને આ કામ કરવું નથી, જવું છે. તો ટીચરે મને રોક્યો, તમે રોકાઈ જાઓ, હું આખો દિવસનું શું કામ કરું છું તમે જોઈ લો, તમને મજા નહીં આવે તો મને સાંજના મળજો. પછી હું સાંજના જ્યારે મળ્યો ને ત્યારે મને એ લોકોએ બેસાડીને કીધું કે તમને છે ને જે કામ કરવાના નિયમ છે, નિયમ જ્યાર સુધી તમે નહીં શીખશો ને તો તમને આગળ જતાં તમને ઘણા બધા વસ્તુની ખબર નહીં પડે. અમે તમને નિયમ શીખડાવીએ છીએ, કેમ કે નિયમ આપણે નેચર શીખડાવે છે. તો આ નેચરના જે નિયમો છે તમે શીખી જાઓ. અમે નહીં, તમારા વડીલો પણ એ કામ કરતા હતા.
So he told the teacher, I'm out of here. and she, kon, ladies ataka?
Ladies.
She said, listen, you just stick around for the day and you see what we're doing and then we'll talk in the end of the day. And she told him, you know, we're teaching rules. I don't know, rules isn't the right word, huh? We're teaching principles. We're teaching the principles of nature. બીજું શું હતા?
નિયમ શીખી લેશો એટલે ભવિષ્યમાં તમને ઘણા બધા કામ આવશે.
So if you learn those principles, you'll be able to use them a lot in the future.
પછી જ્યારે બેઝિક ડિઝાઇનનું ક્લાસ પૂરું થયું ત્યારે ટીચરે અમને કીધું કે જાઓ તમારે ટ્રેડિશનલ પીસ લઈ આવો અને અમને એલિમેન્ટ્સ ઓફ ડિઝાઇનના જે પ્રિન્સિપલ છે તમારા પીસમાં બતાવો. પણ જ્યારે મેં 13 દિવસના જે શીખ્યો હતો ને જે પ્રિન્સિપલ એ મારા પીસમાં મને દેખાવા લાગ્યા એટલે મને ઘણો ઉત્સાહ થયો. મને એમ થયું કે મારા વડીલો આજથી ઘણા વર્ષ પહેલાં પ્રિન્સિપલનો નિયમ એ જ ફોલો કરતા હતા, મને એ કરવાનું કહેતા હતા, પણ આનું જે મારી સમજવાની જે શક્તિ છે ને એ હું સમજી ન શકતો હતો એને.
So then at the end of the day, she had him bring a traditional piece and she showed him how all these principles were already there. And he really was happy to see that. And he said, oh, my ancestors already knew all these principles. And he became enthusiastic.
પણ જ્યારે આ બધા મેં ક્લાસીસ કરી લીધા ત્યાર પછી મારી દશા અને દિશા બંને ચેન્જ થઈ, કેમ કે મારી વિચારવાની શક્તિ ઘણી વધી ગઈ હતી અને મને એમ લાગતું હતું કે ડિઝાઇન એજ્યુકેશન જીવનમાં જરૂરી છે, કેમ કે પહેલે હું એને ખાલી કામ પૂરતો જોતો હતો, હવે કામના સિવાય પણ હું ઘણી જગ્યાએ ડિઝાઇનના એલિમેન્ટ જોઈ શકું છું. હું ભલે ભણ્યો ન હતો એટલો, પણ મને ડિઝાઇન એજ્યુકેશનના દ્વારા મને ઘણું બધું શીખવા મળ્યું છે.
So he thought he didn't have the ability to learn these things, but he realized that he did. And by the end of the course, I forgot what you said. By the end of the course, he realized that he did have this capability and that it wasn't all about just reading and writing, and he could apply it into his work. I hope I got that right. So I think also Pachan bhai tamara outreach no thodak anubhav batao. Asking him to talk about his experience with the outreach project in Kumaon and Ladakh.
જ્યારે ટીચર કોઈ કારીગરને શીખવાડે છે ત્યારે એક મુશ્કેલ પ્રસંગ હોય છે, પણ જ્યારે આર્ટિઝનને શીખવાડે છે ને તો બહુ કનેક્ટિવિટી થઈ જાય છે. એટલે એ મને શીખવા આઉટરીચ પ્રોજેક્ટમાં જ મળ્યું. તો જ્યારે જે થિયરીથી અમને ટીચરો શીખવાડતા હતા ને એ થિયરીથી હું એઝ એ ફેકલ્ટી શીખવાડવા ગયો બહેનોને તો બહુ મુશ્કેલ પડતી હતી, પણ જ્યારે હું કારીગરની દૃષ્ટિએ કારીગરના મનથી જ્યારે એની સાથે જોડાણું તો ઇઝીલી શીખવાનું ઉત્સાહ બહેનોમાં જાગ્યો.
He thinks that it's for a teacher to teach an artisan is a little difficult, but an artisan can teach another artisan easily because they're quickly connected. And he realized that he could teach what the teachers had taught him to artisans, and I think learned about teaching also.
તો કુમાઉના એક બેન હતા જે અમારા ક્લાસમાં હતા, તો એમને ડિઝાઇન ના આવતું હતું, તો એ કહેતા હતા કે મને ડિઝાઇન નથી આવતું, અલમોડા ડિઝાઇન નથી આવતું. તો પછી મેં એ લોકોને શીખવાડ્યું કે ડિઝાઇન આપણે નક્કી ન કરી શકીએ ડિઝાઇન શું છે, આપણે એની અંદર તમે લાઇન કરો એ પણ ડિઝાઇન છે, ડિઝાઇનની અંદર રાઇટ રોંગ કાંઈ નથી હોતું. આપણે એ ન કહી શકીએ કે ડિઝાઇન રોંગ છે. ડિઝાઇનના એલિમેન્ટ્સની ખબર હોવી જોઈએ કે જેમ કે લાઇન છે, વર્ટિકલ લાઇન છે કે હોરિઝોન્ટલ લાઇન છે, એ આપણે એને સાઇઝ કોન્ટ્રાસ્ટ કરી શકીએ. એને ખાલી લાઇન ઉપર જ એમને કરવાનું આવતું હતું, અને પછી મેં થોડી વાતચીત કરી કે લાઇનને આપણે કઈ રીતે આપણે ઉપયોગ કરી શકીએ, વર્ટિકલ છે, હોરિઝોન્ટલ છે. તો એના ઉપર એ લોકો કલેક્શન બનાવ્યું, એટલો સારો નીકળીને મને પોતાને પણ ઉત્સાહ થતો હતો કે આ કલેક્શન જોઈને મજા આવશે લોકોને.
So he had one woman weaver that he was teaching, and she felt that she couldn't do design. She didn't know this complicated design called Almora design. And he said, listen, it's not for us to say what is a design. Anything simple can also be a design. A line can be a design. You can change the what did you say, contrast in design and the horizontal and vertical design. So he explained to her that you don't have to limit yourself in your understanding of design. And he freed her up, and he said she did such a nice collection that he became very enthusiastic about it.
તો એમના અંદર જે ડર હતો ને ડર નીકળી ગયો.
Kono, tamaro ka benno?
બેન.
He said her fear was lost. And I said, whose, yours or hers? He said hers. So would anyone like to ask questions?
Please.
I notice in all this discussion the word artisan is such an we're talking about artisans, I've noticed, okay, the word artisan, how defining this is in all of these discussions. And I was just wondering how all of you think of what an artisan is and what it means to claim that title.
Artisan શબ્દ ઘડી ઘડી આવે છે તો આર્ટિસનનો એકચ્યુઅલી મતલબ શું છે અને કોને આર્ટિસન કહી શકે? It's funny because Amina and I were talking about this in putting together the exhibition.
આર્ટિઝન શબ્દ નીકળે છે એનું કારણ એ છે કે જે મનથી અને દિલથી જે આર્ટ નીકળતું હોય ને એને આપણે કહી શકીએ આર્ટ.
So he says from someone whose heart and mind, art comes from their heart and mind, they're an artisan.
And I feel like artist and artisan is separated, like art and artist can make anything. It is not necessarily like for example, being an artisan, we have particular technique, we have a tradition, we have attachment with the society, and like sometimes the rules and the protocols, everything which involves, and that makes like craft, and if you are like making these things, you are artisan, maybe. I mean, it's not just about making something, but making a person who makes something that means, that has some particular aesthetics, a way of doing something, that could be an artisan.
Yeah, you're connected to your tradition, right? Yeah.
Just so the people on the live stream
Marsha.
can hear.
Oh, I see.
Judy, I think that the woman in the green sari that you showed very early on, you brought her to the United States.
Not Dayaben, but I brought Lachuben.
Okay.
Lachuben, twice or more.
I was wondering what her experience was, what she thought of coming here, and I'd like to hear from the two gentlemen what they think about coming here and what they've learned.
Tamaro America આવવાનો અનુભવ શું હતા, શું શીખ્યું, શું સમજ્યું? He was here for a week last year, and Adil Bhai's been here like one day.
અમેરિકા આવવાનું સપનું જે મારું 2015માં મેં ડ્રીમ જોયું હતું જ્યારે હું ક્લાસમાં હતો ત્યારે અમારા ફેકલ્ટી ડાયાભાઈ ફર્સ્ટ ટાઈમ મે બી સેકન્ડ ટાઈમ યુએસ આવ્યા હતા એટલે એમને પ્રેરણા લઈને મને મનમાં ઈચ્છા થઈ કે મને એક દિવસ અમેરિકા જવું છે. એ સપનું પૂરું કરવા મને 10 વર્ષ લાગી ગયા.
When he was in class in 2015, his faculty person was Dayabai, who we saw, who came to the United States for the first time in the folk art market in 2014 to 15. He said, that was my inspiration. I said, one day I'm going to America, and it took me 10 years.
પણ મજા આવી બહુ, કેમ કે ઘણા લોકો પાસેથી સાંભળ્યું છે સપના પૂરા થાય છે એક અલગ જ ખુશી હોય છે. એ ખુશી આપણેથી ઘણી ફેર એમ કહીએ કે આપણે શબ્દોથી બયાં કરી લઈએ, એ બયાં નથી થતી. બયાં એટલે શું કહેવાય?
Express.
Okay. He said he had heard from a lot of people that fulfilling a dream is a different kind of experience. And what Sachi say? So yeah, he's experienced it.
પણ વધુ સમજમાં એ આવ્યું કે આપણે જ્યારે બીજાથી યુનિક કામ કરશું તો જ આપણું સપનું પૂરું થશે. કેમ કે જે બધા જુએ છે એ સપના આપણે જોશું તો ક્યારે જીવનમાં પૂરા નહીં થાય. આપણે બીજાથી કંઈ હટકીને કંઈ કરવું પડશે તો જ સપના પૂરા થશે.
He said in order to fulfill a dream, you have to do something special. You have to do something. It doesn't just come like that. You have to work.
And yeah.
What is your connection? Maybe you want to answer the question and then you can ask the question.
So not it also involves in terms of community, like if you have been to United States, you get like very he's been to United States. He must be a great artist, of course.
Yeah.
What is your background or connection? How did you end up in India, or were you raised there, and how did you connect with it?
You know what? It's through textiles. When I was in grade school, somebody brought in, as I remember it, a trunk full of textiles and showed them to the class, and I said, I'm going there. And so when I was in college, I had the opportunity to do a study abroad program, and I went to India. And I was a batik artist at the time, and I was looking for better dyes. But when I saw traditional artisans, I said, let's just step back and learn. And then I went into anthropology, and it just got a life of its own.
Sure, okay, thank you. One of my students who had to leave asked me to ask a question on their behalf. Judy, you had said that when you started the school, but by 2014 it had reached its limit, and so they were interested to know how did you go about funding the school? Was it an NGO? Were there people supporting the funding of it? And when it switched over, was the intention for it then to become, either to stay as a not-for-profit or to move to being kind of like for-profit? Like, what was the sort of structure and trajectory?
I started the school right after the earthquake in 2001. I started working on it, and I thought, fundraising's easy after an earthquake, right? And so I had raised some money that could be used to start the school, but after that it was difficult because I think funders like a project with a beginning and an end, something they can stick their name on, right? So it's very hard to find, at least it was for me, to find funding for ongoing programs. And I know, don't ever do this is not the way to do it, but I would begin every year with the students and the faculty and everything lined up and no money in the bank and a promise to, by the end of the year, raise that much money. And I did it, but always by the seat of my pants. And all I could do pretty much was keep it going, but I couldn't develop new programs, which I really wanted to do. So that was tiring. And also, we were working within a village cooperative, basically, which Color Raksha has a life of its own. It's successful, it's still going, but running Color Raksha could earn its keep by selling the work that the women made. But what we were selling in an education program was education, and our clients couldn't really afford it, what it really cost. So we were educating students at a very basic fee, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to come. And so the money had to come from somewhere, right? So, and Color Raksha didn't have the bandwidth to run the income generation project as well as raise funds for a school. So I think the Somaya Trust has a university in Mumbai, and they know something about education, and they have it's really basically a CSR project for an industry. So that was a big appeal. Both of those aspects were a big appeal. It ended up, though, since I was very enthusiastically developing programs, I still ended up having to raise a lot of money, but the basic was taken care of. And I think, you know, thinking about education for profit, personally, I might be going out on a limb, but I feel like if you look at education as a profit-making endeavor, you're risking compromising quality and your goals also, your intentions. You're risking it. I'm not saying it necessarily happens, but, you know, yeah.
Anyone else? I just wanted to say that your respect for the tradition is very apparent, and that's beautiful to see. And I was wondering if you would ever consider bringing a program like that to the United States. You wouldn't have that traditional aspect because it's such a melting pot here in the US. But I feel like learning a craft like that would be so enriching to so many people. Would that ever be a possibility, or what would the limitations to that be?
Well, we have lots of education programs we have lots of craft programs. There's Penland and there's Haystack Mountain, and there's many more. Those are the two I knew from my childhood. But, you know, craftspeople, or I don't know if they call themselves artisans or craftspeople or artists in America, they struggle to survive. They work really hard. And in fact, many can't make a living. And I think it's commendable that so many artisans in India do make a living. You know, it's not the type, you know, not the level of income maybe that you would from working for a corporate or something, but you have a benefit, right? What's the benefit?
બેનિફિટ એ છે કે અમે અત્યારે અહીંયા બેઠા છીએ.
Well, we're sitting here now. Yeah, but what, come on, you know, everybody, all કારીગરને બધું ખબર છે કે શું ફાયદો છે, ના?
ઘણું બધું. કેમ કે પહેલે છે જ્યારે પોતે કામને રિસ્પેક્ટ નહીં આપે તો લોકો એને રિસ્પેક્ટ નહીં આપે. સૌથી પહેલો એ મહત્વ છે.
Yeah, if your work isn't respected, you won't be respected.
અને બીજું, તમે કામને શું માનો છો? સૌથી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ એ છે કે તમે કામને શું માનો છો. ઘણા છે બિઝનેસ માને છે, ઘણા આર્ટ માને છે. હવે બિઝનેસ કરવો છે કે આર્ટ કરવો છે એ તમારા ઉપર છે.
Yeah, how do you perceive your work? Is it business or is it art? And your work will vary according to that. But also, you're independent, right? So I think Prakash Bhai, who did the rug, the carpet in the exhibition, he took a job, but no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Prakash Bhai, it was Pawan Bhai.
Yeah.
Pawan Bhai, his best friend.
Yeah.
He had a job, and he liked to play cricket, so he told the factory where he's working, I'm not coming in tomorrow because I have a cricket match. And they said, you have to come in. And he said, then I quit. I can work at my own pace, and that weaving is pretty good that way, you know.
બીજું એ છે ને, આપણે સક્સેસ છીએ તો આવનારી પીઢી પણ આપણે જોઈને પોતે આ ફિલ્ડમાં જોડાશે. માણસો આજ સક્સેસને બહુ માને છે.
So people give respect to success. So if you're successful, your children will want to join. Is that what you mean? Yeah? And that will continue craft tradition. I do want to say, though, there is a school which we are going to visit in Santa Fe. It's the IAIA, the Institute of American Indian Art, that is pretty much what I envision this design school for artisans to be. It's an art school. broadly. It has cinema, it has writing, it has fine art, it has sculpture, and it's not only but mostly for Native Americans, and it's very exciting. So there is something like that in the U.S., but it's very specific for people with a strong artistic cultural heritage.
I was thinking it would be fantastic to have them come to different schools and teach, 2-week, 4-week, 6-week intensives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Share what they've learned.
Well, we're going to test the waters on Friday at Parsons. We're going to have a discussion. Yeah. Always
ready.
Always ready.
Anyone else?
But, I think it's important, it's not just skills. It's like Adil Bhai very articulately said, it embodies so much more. And I think to teach that is important and will add to the respect for these works of art that we can own. These are little luxuries and connections to people and to cultural heritage. And they're to be cherished. We preserve what we value. If this has meaning, you're not going to throw it away, right? If it's just another scarf, well, that's a different thing, right?
True.
Thank you. So please, Adil Bhai and Pachan Bhai have, hi Gigi. They have examples of their work that they have created especially for coming here. They knew about coming here, 6 months in advance or more? And they have created beautiful works of art. So please go and enjoy them. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Gigi. Oh, sweetie. Oh, honey.
हाँ जी.
How old is she? Oh, sweet.
हाँ एक बालक की छे 1.5 વર્ષની.
Cute.
જરૂર આ હજુ તો 1.5 વર્ષ જ છે ખાલી. 1.5 વર્ષ એટલે
The guy on the
ખાલી 1.5 વર્ષ.